You work at the Glass House Laundry?
I was born there.
You know, I didn't sit there and write, I'm going to write this because I'm a woman. You know, I wrote this because it interested me and it felt important.
What would the vote mean to you?
My name is Abi Morgan and I was a screenwriter on Suffragette.
We have been left with no alternative. Defy this government. Vote for women!
We shall cut into the heart of communications.
I think the act of making this film is a kind of quite political act. I don't think it was consciously done like that, but when so few films are made by women, I think it's 4%. You know, when so few films are written by women, I think it's 14%. You know, these are kind of random statistics and they're massaged all the time, but ultimately, you know, 17% of women take up places in the boardroom. It is clear that equal doesn't mean equal. And so doing a film like Suffragette sort of in itself was great because it was a group of us working together that got on very well, but I also think there were things and issues in it that were chiming with us. Not to focus on a historical figure, but actually create a group of fictional characters who cross over with history. It kind of released us from that pressure to have to stay true to any one historical fact. But having said that, I think we were all driven by how dramatic, relevant, important the truth was, and so, in these stories. And so I think we were always trying to get as close as we could to something that felt truthful. People don't entirely understand what a screenwriter does, but effectively what you do is you create the first plan, you know, and I never know if I'm the architect or the builder. I never know if the director's the architect or the builder. I never quite know, because I think it's a fusion of both of you doing something quite creative, but ultimately you're trying to create something that's often visual, that obviously has the structure of the film in place, although editing changes that, and something that is vivid on character and creates dialogue. And so I kind of fell in love with that form of writing from reading and realising that I kind of was magicked away by some screenplays I read, and certainly by play scripts I read. I was magicked away, and I could see the film or see the play, and I realised that that's what the writer does. I always was a storyteller. I definitely was a liar. I used to tell terrible fibs, as my mother called it. And I work quite hard not to do that now. I make myself try and tell the truth. But it's still a battle. While I was at university, really, I started to write and started to realise that actually, whereas I would never be an actress, which is what everyone else in my family would be, I could probably write. And so that was really how I got started. I feel very privileged and very lucky to be able to do what I do. And you know, I watch people go do their day jobs and think, God, that's hard. You know, office jobs can be very hard. I don't have to even work office hours in the same way. But you do put yourself out there, you know, and actually you don't risk yourself physically in any way at all. So it's not like being a soldier or a policeman. But you just get a bit emotionally battered because you have to deal with people not liking your work sometimes. But really, that's a small price to pay to be able to do what you do. I think the defining moment in my career is when I realised that something I was curious about would be curious to other people, and it might get an audience. And I think when I started to realise that if you write about something you really believe in, then normally there is someone else who'll be interested too, and that's sort of enough for me. And in a way that's probably the defining moment that keeps me going now, is that I still believe in what I write. I think women understand their own experience, and you understand your experience to be a woman, but you know, I would feel very sad if someone said to me, the problem with you is you wouldn't know how to write a man. Because ultimately I don't think we're as different as we think we are, I just think the world tells us we are. Women can certainly write their own experience, but I think the greater thing is to try and write the truth, and I think men and women can do that for each other. One of the biggest issues for us with Suffragette will be, will we sell at the box office? And I think if we can prove ourselves at the box office, then quite literally the algorithms that the studios use to make films will go, well actually, guess what? That film, Suffragette, that had 4 women in the centre of it, that made money, so we'll do another film with 4 women at the centre of it. So then female writers who wrote that script with 4 women will find their script being read by a producer, and they'll go, we're making films now with women, so we'll look at your script.
We do not want to be lawbreakers. We want to be lawmakers.
only way is forward.
I'm worth no more, no less than you. We will win.
Never surrender. Never give up the fight.